Bonjour and shalom. My name is Samuel White. I'm a freshman at UW-Madison, in Madison, Wisconsin, of course. I am Jewish, as well as an enrolled member of Citizen Potawatomi Nation in Shawnee, Oklahoma. People think that all Jews carry the same religious affiliation, think that we all vote the same, have the exact same beliefs. Like, we're a group of with entirely different political philosophies, opinions, religious statuses, heritages, a very diverse group overall. But so there are, like, of course, like the obvious stereotypes, like Jews are greedy, Jews, all we care about is money. That there's a stereotype that Jews only go into certain professions like doctor, lawyer, all that. But those are more like stereotypes and like educated misconceptions. Just considering the fact that, like, if I were to walk home at night, I wouldn't even think about needing someone to escort me. Like, I wouldn't think that my safety is at risk just by being out late at night. Right? Whereas I've noticed women, that's all there is on their mind, right? They don't feel comfortable walking home alone, because of the dangers that are presented to them purely because of their gender. Another thing that's like advancement that's naturally given to men are like certain jobs are still very male dominated, like the finance industry. A lot of STEM roles are extremely male dominated, and although that's changing, it's definitely far from ideal. I'd say two different types of social groups. One's based on identity and one's based on interests. And I'm involved in groups of both of those natures. I've been friends with more Jewish people since I've been to UW Madison. The school, Jewish people constitute about like 20% of the school's enrollment, which is absolutely insane. So I've been involved with a lot of Jewish kids. I've participated in Jewish organizations. I go to Friday night dinners, Saturday services, and it's really cool to be in touch with more Jewish youth, the Jewish peers than I've ever been with before. Another social group I'd say I'm involved in is there's another part of my identity. I've been involved with more Native students that I've been here as well. Wisconsin is home to I think 12 or 13 tribes. It's one of the most diverse states in terms of native populations, east of the Mississippi. So there's also a very surprising number of native students here as well. Another thing is social groups based on interest. Now, I love to play basketball. I love to listen to to rap music, all that. So I go play basketball. I meet people. I have friends who I've met just because I've been at the gym. I've played with them. I've also talked to a lot of people and we share a common interest in music. And that's also something like the people who gravitate towards my interests, are usually the people who I associate myself with in a social setting. A lot of what makes a respectable man or respectable person is reliability. I'd say reliability is an extremely important characteristic for a responsible and developed individual. The fact that your family can depend on you, your friends can depend on you, your parent, like all sorts of people can depend on you, it really means something. And I feel like that speaks the best of your character. In terms of a family setting, right? If as a man, right, the stereotype is that you're the breadwinner, right? In that case, like reliability would be the most important, right? Because you have to put food on the table, provide for your family, all that. Although in a more common like social setting, I'd say like if you flake on plans, if you push stuff back throughout your day, people see that and they say, and they don't think it speaks well of your character. That's definitely something that me personally I'm trying to develop, although it's a process, right? Having people depend on you in some aspects, it can be hard. It can be somewhat overwhelming. Although I mean I'm fairly young, I still have time to develop as a man, as a person, and that reliability is definitely something that I strive towards in order to become a respectable man. Respect is 100% needed for relationships. I mean, that respect is either inherent in terms of like family or like your parents' friends or something like that. Like those types of relationships, respect is inherent because it was given by someone before you. Although like you can just as easily ruin those relationships if you show a lack of respect. Although in those situations, I'd say you don't have to immediately earn someone's respect; it's automatically given to you. I'd say that in terms of meeting new people, being in a setting where you don't inherently have a higher status than a common individual, respect is definitely important. Respect is make or break in terms of just manners, right? Manners are a way to show respect. Being friendly, being polite, those are all ways of showing respect. I'd say they're definitely important in maintaining healthy relationships and cultivating new ones as well. I'd say I definitely had a much different, even Jewish upbringing than most kids at my middle school. I was raised Orthodox Jewish, which kind of even separated me from a lot of the other Jewish kids in my school. Just being more religious, I wasn't allowed to do any of the like some of the things that my peers were doing. I shied away from certain like developmental experiences because of that. I was definitely more reserved because it was just how I was raised, like being all religious and all that. Like I didn't eat my first like cheeseburger or fast food until I was like 15 years old. So in that respect, like going from religious to secular was definitely more of a transition than going from being being around a bunch of Jews to being around not so many Jews purely because even when I was around a bunch of Jews, I was still somewhat of an outlier. Although I would say that being going from being a religious Jew to being in a totally secular environment with no Jewish people was a very, very rough transition at first. I definitely had a hard time identifying with a lot of people my age just because of the difference in upbringing, the difference in culture too. I just wasn't raised around the same things a lot of other people were raised with. And that was just a rough transition. Although I would say that by maybe sophomore year, I had met enough people, been around, talked to enough people to where my perspective shifted. And I was now more in touch with different cultures and could identify with more people than I thought I ever would. I'll give you an example. My good friend, Andy or Andreas, we grew up totally different. Our families are totally different. My family, both of my parents are lawyers. His family, both of his parents are not lawyers. We grew up in totally different familial structures. He has a very large, important, extended family. I don't really have that. His parents do different things than my parents do. I'd say we come from a slightly different socioeconomic status as well. At the time, I'd say we had very different goals, but we were able to learn from each other, give each other additional perspectives to where he's my best friend now. And I feel like that just shows my shift, beneficial shift from not knowing anything outside of religious Judaism to being able to be in touch with people entirely different than me. And then another shift occurred when I went to college. Tucson High, where I went to high school, was definitely predominantly Hispanic, predominantly lower. I'd say probably lower income than obviously UW Madison. It's a Big Ten school, very large university with a lot of people coming here from I'd say high class backgrounds. And I additionally had a hard time getting in touch with them at first, because I just came from an environment where that was just polar opposite from that. But being able to be in touch with people from a super high socioeconomic status to people from super low socioeconomic status, um, I'd say has been definitely beneficial to me. Just being able to associate with all types of people, because in the end, that's the world, right? The world is a mixed bag. It's definitely not beneficial to only stick to one type of group. I'm glad I've had the experiences in my life to know that already, to have those perspectives, and hopefully carry it on to adulthood and the rest of my life.